strangers, and yet Jesus wasn't doing anything for his own cousin. And John wasn't feeling the love. And John began to have second thoughts about Jesus. And so one day when his friends are visiting him, he says, guys, this is a little bit embarrassing, but I need you to send a message to Jesus. And they're like, all right, what's the message? And here's what he asked him. I'll show you what he said. When John heard in prison what the Messiah, Jesus, was doing, he sent his disciples to ask him. Now listen to this question. This I'm telling you, I bet his followers kind of did a double take when John said this. Here's the question he sent to Jesus. Are you the one who was to come? Or should we expect someone else? They're like, do you really want us to ask him that? I mean, John, you're the one who told us he's the one. I know, but I'm having second thoughts. John, you've heard the stories of what he's doing out there, right? Yeah. But I just need some assurance. I just need something. I just need a word. I just need to know. Now, here's why this is so important for us. Isn't it interesting that when our circumstances take a sudden change, it can be a change for the better or for the worse, how it impacts our confidence in God? Isn't that weird? It's like somehow God becomes different because our circumstances are different, and we know that doesn't make any sense, but it's real, isn't it? It's real. And you're like John the Baptist. It's like, I'm embarrassed to even say this. I'm embarrassed to confess this, but I need a little help. I need a little word. I need a little shout out. I need to know that everything I grew up believing isn't a lie because it's not working for me. Because you know what? You know this. There is an amount of physical pain that makes you unable to care about anybody else. There's a point where you can be in such incredible physical pain that you are unable to care about anybody but yourself. It's the nature of pain. It shrinks us to the size of us. And so consequently, there's John the Baptist. He's with all that he's seen, with all that he's heard, with all that he knows. And suddenly his world is no bigger than his prison cell. And he begins to doubt. And that's what makes Jesus' response so incredibly amazing and so incredibly relevant to all of us. So let me tell you what Jesus doesn't say. So they get to Jesus and they're like, excuse me, Jesus, I need to interrupt your miracle. Your cousin, he's in prison. You did know that. He has a question, and his question is, and it's kind of embarrassing, but he told us we had to ask, Jesus, are you the one, or are we looking for somebody else? Now, I know it's embarrassing. Look at all these people, but from where he sits and from what he hears, he's starting to wonder. And here's what Jesus doesn't say. Jesus doesn't say, yeah, of course I'm the one. Go back, tell him I'm the one. Say that. Neither does he say, yeah, I'm the one, and I'm breaking him out. I'm going to sneak in there tonight. Bingo, we're out. We're going to write all over the inside of the wall. Ha, ha, ha. Well, you try to find, no, he didn't say that either, okay? Here's what he says. Here's the message he sends back to John the Baptist. You ready for this? This is for you. This is for me. When God seems inattentive to our situation, he says this. Jesus replied, go back and report to John what you hear and see. Because John can't hear past the prison and he can't see past the prison. So you've got to go back and you've got to tell him what you hear and what you see. You need to go back and report the activity of God outside of his prison cell. Because John is a prisoner to what he can hear and to what he can see. So you go back and you tell him what you've heard and what you've seen. John's pain has shrunk him down to the size of a prison cell. He's no larger than his pain. So of course he's beginning to doubt. You go tell him what you've heard and what you've seen. And then Jesus lists the things he wants them to hear and he wants them to report. The blind receive sight. The lame walk. Those who have leprosy are cleansed. The deaf hear. The dead are raised. And the good news is proclaimed to the poor. So they're writing all this down, and he says, that's what I want you to say. And they're like, that's it. You just go tell him. You just go tell him what you've heard and what you've seen. And so they're turning to leave. Jesus is about to turn back to whatever he's doing. And he says, wait, there's one more thing I want you to tell him. And they pause and they look back. And Jesus says, make sure you tell him this. Don't forget, this is the most important part. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. What? Yeah, this is important. Tell him, blessed is anyone who does not stumble away or fall down or fall out because of me. Okay, Jesus, say. So what you're saying is, you might actually do things. You might actually cause things. You might actually allow things that would cause us to stumble away from you? Yeah. So I want you to make sure you tell John, blessed is anyone who does not stumble away from me because of something I've done or haven't done. Okay, so he's in prison and he's losing his faith and he's deteriorating and things. You know about that. Yeah. And I realize the reason that's happening is because of me, because I've left him in there. Okay, so you don't like him. So like when you guys were cousins growing up, he did something to you and this is like revenge. I mean, why in the world would you allow him to lose faith in you because of something you've done that doesn't make any sense? So is it that you don't like John the Baptist? And listen to what Jesus says about him. No, that's not it. Truly I say to you, among those born of women, be about everybody, right? Among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. I think he's the greatest guy who's ever lived so far. But you're going to leave him in prison? Yeah, and tell him, hang in there. Hang in there. Hang in there. Don't lose your faith just because I've chosen not to bail you out of prison. Now, let me tell you why this is great news for you and this is great news for me. It means this, that your personal circumstances do not necessarily coincide with how God feels about you. And you can't ever lose sight of that. Because like John the Baptist, when we're in a dry season, when we're in the desert, when we're in the wilderness, when God hasn't done anything for us lately and things seem to be getting worse, we begin to draw the conclusion, well, my circumstances reflect the way that God feels about me. And God says, no, they don't. No, they don't. Your personal circumstances don't necessarily coincide with how God feels about you. Don't ever draw that conclusion. Proof of how God feels about you is what happened at the cross, not what's happening at home, not what's happening at school, not what's not happening at work, not what's not happening in the neighborhood, not what's happening in your love life or what's not happening in your love life or with your kids. So what do when God is inattentive? When God seems to be unavailable? When God seems to be late? I think if we were to ask Jesus what to do, I think he would give us the same advice that he gave John in prison. Here's my updated version.